seems to be like this consensus among conservatives that somehow Animal Farm is a conservative book and it's rejecting communism and socialism, and nothing could be further from the truth. So I thought I would address that. My name is Brent Latulip. I'm the headmaster at Blue Manor Academy, and today I just wanted to jump back in. I haven't gone live in a long time. I've been teaching classes. I've been pretty busy, but I wanted to jump back in today. I thought it'd be a good day. I was teaching Russian Reign and Revolution class today, and we're right in the middle of the Bolshevik Revolution. We're in the Civil War and the Red Terror. So it's like pretty much the worst part of the revolution. This is when Lenin is in charge. And I showed a little bit of a clip from Animal Farm, the old cartoon, as it was related to the scapegoating and different things. One of the kids jumped in. He had a comment and he said, "Don't watch the new Animal Farm. You know, they ruined it. It's really bad." And they're talking about the new Animal Farm by Angel Studios. I think it's been ruined. Yeah, I think it's a horrible film. I wouldn't have my kids watch it. I might let them read the old book. But I wanted to address something because there seems to be like this consensus among conservatives that somehow Animal Farm is a conservative book and it's rejecting communism and socialism, and nothing could be further from the truth. So I thought I would address that. There was a guy, Matt Walsh, and I actually like him. He's a conservative commentator, and he said, Angel Studios has ruined this book. Literally the purpose, I'm not quoting him exactly, but literally the purpose of this book, this movie, Animal Farm, is to reject communism. Okay, and it's not true. It's actually the opposite. It is supporting communism, it's supporting socialism, and it actually makes a typical liberal argument today that Marxism was good, socialism was good. It was necessary, but it was ruined by the hypocrisy and the tyranny of, guys like Stalin. And they used to even call it, instead of Marxism, they'd say Stalinism. Stalinism ruined it. And there are Marxist leftists today. They want another revolution. Wherever they go, they want to overthrow it. They want to establish communism. And they say it won't be like Stalinism. It'll be democratic communism, Marxism. And that's actually the argument that the book makes. Okay, it's not conservative. Today's conservatives are yesterday's liberals. There's a reason you were able to read George Orwell in a public school, and it's because he was a rabid leftist, Marxist, socialist. He's not your friend. If you read 1984, yes, it was a rejection of some of the tyranny of Stalinism, but it was kind of a weird book. It's not a conservative, it's not a Christian book for sure. It has some weird ideas in it. I don't think people are aware of that. So George Orwell was not a Christian. He was a Marxist. He was a radical Marxist. He actually fought in the Spanish Civil War, killing nationalists. And the nationalists, they were generally fighting for the monarchy, a restoration of the monarchy, a defense of the Catholic Church, because the Marxists there were just burning down churches, massacring Christians, Catholics. And so those were on one side, and Orwell was on the other side, fighting with Stalin, on Stalin's side, not against him, I mean with him, in the Workers' Party of Marxist Unification. Now, eventually that Workers' Party was denounced by Stalin, and they kind of butted heads, and they went against each other. And that's why he wrote Animal Farm in 1984, George Orwell. It was a condemnation of Stalinism, but not Marxism. Okay, they believed that Stalin was ruining Marxism. He wasn't a true Marxist. It's really important to know. If you watch Animal Farm, the drunk farmer is supposed to be Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia, a very devout Christian man. I think very few people can really criticize him. Some say he was too nice, or some say he was like incompetent, but he certainly wasn't a tyrant of any sort. And he was the defender of Christendom. In fact, that's why World War started, because the Germans attacked the Serbians, and the Serbians were Orthodox Christians, and Nicholas, seeing himself as the defender of Orthodox Christianity, came to their defense, and it triggered World War I. So a devout Christian man, under him, the Orthodox Christianity flourished in Russia. And in Orwell's book, this communist socialist Orwell portrayed him as a drunken farmer, abusing the animals. Okay, that's a myth. The czars actually were really good leaders. The communists had all sorts of promises, but when they took over Russia, when they had the reins, they ran it into the ground. Everything got worse under them. So that's the first. Old Major, in the beginning, there's this old wise pig. Hopefully my screen didn't just go black. It timed out. That's supposed to represent Karl Marx and maybe Lenin, the old wisdom, but it died too soon. Okay, that's Karl Marx. This great idea that all animals were free. If you know anything about Marx, he was a monster, not an old wise pig. Maybe a pig, but not an old wise one. Then it shows after the revolution, they've overthrown the farmer. That's the czar. An old major, Marx, he dies. He doesn't get to see the revolution. But there's two pigs. There's Snowball and there's Napoleon. And Napoleon's the really bad one. Napoleon represents Stalin. The good one, Snowball, the good pig, and he builds, he's going to build the windmill, and the animals are all going to prosper, and they're going to have, plenty of grain and everything that they need with their windmill. But unfortunately, Napoleon or Stalin chases Snowball away, and then he doesn't understand the plans for the windmill, and he's a tyrant, and he ruins Animal Farm. Okay, that's the message. Snowball is supposed to represent Leon Trotsky. Leon Trotsky was a rival to Stalin, and Stalin did chase him away, sent him into exile, and then eventually had Trotsky assassinated. And George Orwell and lots of the modern Marxist communists, they have made a saint out of Leon Trotsky. And they believe that if Leon Trotsky would have won, if he would have come to power in Russia, he would have created that utopia that all the Marxists still believe in. And they believe that Stalin destroyed it. And so a lot of them will call themselves, Trotskyites. And that's what the Workers' Party of Marxist Unification was. They were Trotskyites. They believed in Trotsky, not Stalin. Okay, so in Animal Farm, he's actually holding up Trotsky. If Trotsky could have, taken charge, the Animal Farm would have flourished like it was supposed to, and they would have had that utopia. But Snowball was chased away. To give you some background, a lot of people don't know very much about Trotsky. Trotsky was a butcher. He was the head of the Red Army. He massacred Christians. He massacred his opposition. He was absolutely brutal. He supported the Red Terror. Okay, so you can't say he's any better than Stalin. He might have been just as bad. I actually think he was worse. He had an absolute hatred for the Christians. And an interesting point, Stalin later in life actually becomes a little bit more conservative. Believe it or not, I know everything you've heard, he is an abomination, and he probably was for a while, and he was certainly involved in the Red Terror and all that stuff, okay? But later, when they have this rivalry between Trotsky and Stalin, Stalin actually becomes brutal against the Trotskyites, and a lot of the assassinations and deaths and people sent to the Gulag later on are actually communists. They're followers of Trotsky. So the Trotskyites hate Stalin, and that's why they portray him so badly in Animal Farm. But an interesting fact. So later on in Stalin's rule, he legalizes Orthodox Christianity again, and they are able to come out of the shadows. It's not perfect, okay? But another huge one. He bans abortion. Can you believe it? That was like the hallmark of the Bolshevik communists. That's like their number one thing that they wanted. As soon as they took over in Russia, they legalized abortion on demand. Okay, that's who they are. Trotsky totally condemned Stalin for outlawing abortion again and said he has betrayed the movement. Another one that they did right away is they wanted to destroy the family, and they legalized this thing called no-fault divorce, which is now all over the world. It was unheard of back then, but this idea that basically you could walk away from any marriage because it was a non-binding contract, which means it's not a contract at all. And their stated purpose was to destroy the nuclear family. They believe that family is evil. It's part of the bourgeoisie system of power and control. And Stalin banned that after seeing just the devastation to the Russian families. So that's interesting. Trotsky condemned him for that as well. So Trotsky is actually the more rabid liberal. And in Animal Farm, he is held up as Snowball as the wise one that would have really saved Animal Farm. So I hope you just are aware of that when you're introducing your kids to George Orwell. Somehow Christianity and conservatism have kind of become, they've kind of blended. And so we start to think that that anything that's in the conservative movement or held up like that is Christian, and they've been blended. And so now you have like Christian leaders and stuff promoting George Orwell's book, Animal Farm. And I would let my kids read it. There's some good things in there, some good principles in there. It's an interesting history. But I don't want my kids thinking that George Orwell is a conservative, a Christian, or anybody to be followed. He was a radical Marxist, probably more radical than Stalin. Okay. So just wanted you to be aware of that. I would not let my kids read George Orwell's 1984. That book has some really explicit scenes in there, some really weird scenes about prostitution and sex and all sorts of weird ideas that George Orwell had. Um, Trotsky was the butcher. Trotsky was much worse than Stalin. Okay. And George Orwell was a Trotskyite. So that's who you're handing your kids over to. Again, I love the movie Animal Farm. I like the old one. I actually like the animated one with the, or not the animated, the real life one with the dogs and the horse and everything. The old animated one is good too. I would let my kids read the book, but be very aware of the message. The message is communism was a great idea. It got hijacked by Napoleon the Bad Pig, and he was hypocritical, and he actually became what they hated, the bourgeoisie. He became like the old Tsar. But the message is that pure communism, good, wholesome, Marxist communism, Trotskyism, that would have worked. So I do think that's the underlying theme. Maybe a lot of you guys didn't get out of it, but that's what George Will intended, and he said so. So, all right, guys, just thought that would be an interesting conversation you could have with your kids. If you learned in public school, there was a reason. It's always radical leftism, but we've gone so far to the left that George Orwell now seems like a conservative. So just beware.